wedding meal is probably one of the main reasons you're getting married in Italy, and it's not true that all food is good and equal. So let's work through what happens at a typical Italian wedding meal. Ciao, I'm Lucy. I'm a wedding planner at Whisker & White and the founder of Lista. I've planned over 200 Italian weddings, and I'm here every week with an episode to help you plan your Italian wedding without the hassle. The Italian wedding meal is one of the foundations, if not the foundation, of the wedding day. The catering service runs through every moment of the day, from the welcome drink when your guests first arrive through to the moment that they're getting on the bus at the end of the night. So let's work through it moment by moment. So the first moment is the welcome. So this is when your guests first arrive at your wedding, and this is the moment before the ceremony. So it's usually an optional moment when it comes to catering, and they can offer a welcome drink. The choice of welcome drink is yours. Sometimes water is included, and people often have Prosecco, sometimes beer. This is the first moment that your guests have actually got to your wedding, and I think it's really important. It actually sets the tone for the day, and it gives guests a chance to mingle and to take in that environment, that ceremony space that they may not actually be in for that long. Also at this space, if you've got the ceremony taking place here, the catering can often be responsible for the setting of the chairs for your ceremony. And side note, there is usually a charge for this. Most caterers will not have one set of chairs for the day, and they will not move them between the ceremony and the dinner. This is for a few reasons. Partly because of how it looks. It's not that nice to have people moving around, moving chairs across your spaces through the day. It also takes extra staff to do that. So while your staff should be busy serving at the aperitif, you can't have a couple of them go away and move the chairs, because that will actually take away from the service that they're offering you. So most caterers will ask you to hire 2 sets of chairs for the day. One of them might be included in the cost, and the other one might not. The next moment is the aperitif, and this is where the food and the drinks really kick off. This is possibly the best part of the day. The anticipation of the ceremony has gone. There is a really nice relaxed and relaxing vibe, and here is where you have all of the stations of food. So it's really standard to have lots of different areas with all different sorts of food, like meats and cheeses and many other good items. It's really nice here because guests can just informally graze and move around and eat over quite a long time, an hour and a half to 2 hours. Alongside the grazing, some caterers offer canapes at this point, and there are always drinks involved. Drinks at the aperitif are usually Prosecco and wine, but adding on spritz and different versions of spritz like Bellini or Hugo spritz, Limoncello spritz, as well as beer is becoming more and more common. You'll find that every caterer is slightly different, but a lot of them include different allocations at this point for the aperitif. Some have unlimited drinks, and others have, for example, 2 beers per person or 2 drinks per person, half a bottle of wine. All of these little nuances really add up when it comes to the cost, so it's really important to get them clear when you're actually choosing your caterer up front. And the next moment is the dinner, the main event. This is where you sit down at the table, and different caterers offer different options, but usually you would have an entree, 2 primi, a secondi, and maybe dessert, or you would use your wedding cake as a dessert. And a lot of people worry at this point that it's going to be too much food for people, that sitting down for that long is going to be boring, or they're going to get too full and it's going to kind of suck the energy out of the wedding. And I'd say you know your guests, so this is a balance between giving your guests what you think they will want and they will enjoy, and also what you want to show them. You know, you've chosen an Italian wedding, you probably love Italian food. If you want to show them a few different courses and have an extended meal, which is something they're not used to but will thoroughly enjoy, then you go for it. You know, you might have 3 favourite pasta dishes and not want a secondi. You might want to just show them that. There's all these different things that you can do to build your own wedding menu. You will find on the whole that a lot of caterers have their own set ways of doing things, and some of them find it quite hard to kind of work outside of those boundaries for lots of different reasons, some of them that I definitely support. Lots of couples choose to have just 2 primi and a secondi. So you sit down at the table and you have maybe 2 pastas, probably quite 2 different pastas, so like a tomato one with a certain type of pasta, and then a very different pasta like a filled ravioli as the second course with a very different flavour, so that you're giving your guests different tastes, different experiences. but there's not too much food and they're not at the table for too long. You'd then follow this by a secondi. So typically a meat dish. Lots of people like to give their guests the steak, and then all caterers will accommodate other needs. So if someone has allergies or intolerances, they will cater for those. What we're seeing more and more is that whilst they will cater for them, if a huge percentage of your guests need alternative dishes, they will probably have to bring in another chef to be able to accommodate that, and that can incur an additional charge. Here again, we need to think about the drinks. So some caterers will offer unlimited wine, some will offer half a bottle per person, or even less, which, to be honest, is never going to happen. Some offer like a fifth of a bottle of wine per person, and no one's going to drink that little wine. So you need to always budget about a bottle per person, unless you know that your guests really don't drink wine. And then the next moment is the cutting of the cake, which is a very important Italian tradition, and a lot of caterers really like that you do this, even if it's getting late. If you'd rather do it quickly, it's a really important moment for them as well. So go ahead with your cutting of the cake, but then you can decide whether you have that served to the table, maybe as your dessert, or you serve it once the party has started, maybe on a dessert buffet. Quite a lot of caterers don't actually like to do that. They love to serve the cake to the table as the dessert. Again, it's quite traditional and they want you to enjoy it and to know that it's been enjoyed. But obviously it is a long time to be at the table, and this is an area that you can look to cut that time. At this point of the cake cutting, you also often get a magnum of Prosecco or Spumante, and everybody is served a glass of fizz here. This obviously in England isn't as traditional, and actually having the sparkling at this point, a lot of people are often on a very different course of their drinking and their choice of drinks. So you could ask the caterer to potentially serve that earlier in the meal. This could mean that you have that for the speeches, for example. Once again, thinking about the caterers, that might require a waiter or waitress to do it at that point when they're not used to doing it, and it may take them away from serving the meal, so they may suggest that something changes there, or that there's a small additional cost just to be aware of. And finally, after the cake, the bar opens, and obviously the bar is a super important part of the day. We need to check that the bar's got the drinks that your guests are going to want, that it's going to be open for long enough, that they've got enough staff on the bar. Some couples want the bar to run through the whole dinner, so people have the option of having drinks throughout, and that is really not the way it's normally done, and therefore comes with quite a considerably high cost. At this point of the bar opening, sometimes you have a dessert buffet, so if you think like little pastries like cannoli and things, I'd say it's a nice to have. A lot of the time people are just getting on with the party and they're having a drink, and that often gets overlooked, sadly, so it could be an area to cut from your wedding meal. Or you could serve it a bit later into the day and think of it as more of a midnight snack, although I'd say the best midnight snacks are literally handed out as people are getting on the buses, and that they are full of carbs. So that's kind of the standard structure of a catering and how it works at an Italian wedding. Obviously it's quite a lot more comprehensive than other countries, and as I said, it goes through the entire day. There is a lot more going on, there's a lot more involved per person, there's a lot more food, and it's a bit more expensive, but I think it's well worth the value that you get. It takes a lot to deliver this quality and amount of food in just one day, and Italian caterers are genuinely incredible. But there are a few things that they all do differently, and it can be quite hard to navigate that. And at La Lista, we love a spreadsheet. It's just the easiest way to make these comparisons. And in our shop, we've just added a catering comparison spreadsheet this week, so that you're able to download this spreadsheet and plug in all of the different tiny little bits of the day that can change, all of the different catering budget variables, and make sure that you are calculating the right amount and that that caterer is going to work for you. And then you can compare all the different options you have based on budget, as well as the other factors that you might be considering. So save yourselves hours, go and grab that spreadsheet, and you can very quickly and accurately compare what your different caterers are offering you. Thank you for sticking with me to the end. I have a terrible cold today and we got through it together. I didn't think I would. So I've got a quick favour to ask you. I want to reach as many couples as possible with this information so that I can help them. By subscribing to our La Lista YouTube, you are helping us reach more people, and you're helping us help others navigate this incredible world of Italian weddings. So please just hit subscribe below and it will really help us. Grazie, and I'll see you next week.